Hello, and welcome back to Money Saving Simulator. I'm pretty excited for this episode. You may have noticed that a little bit of time has passed. It's now daytime the following day. I did a number of shunting contracts that were available here at the goods factory, namely unloading the wood chips that we had, as well as a completely random duplicate, or not duplicate necessarily, but another order of wood chips was on the track right next to us, which I failed to notice completely. So I unloaded both of those since they were right next to us, and went ahead and stored the gondolas that were used there and made us a good bit of cash. I think we finished the last episode with probably about 142,000. I think I made about 15,000 doing those shunting missions. And then I found these two. After letting some time pass, we have two freight hauls here that go to the sawmill, and they both pay pretty good prices or rewards each. So we're looking at about $20,000 each. And with the time bonus, which I fully intend to meet, this could be, almost 60K total combined. The other really good thing about these orders is that they're going to the sawmill, which is kind of more or less on our way to City South. At the very least, it's close to City South. So we'll be able to do these two contracts. That will leave us with well over 200K in the bank, I think. And then that should be plenty to actually finish restoration of our DH4, which is the ultimate goal for today's episode. And to that end, we are going to cut out a good chunk of the freight haul to the sawmill as I lower my game audio here. Before we do anything, though, we need to finish maintenance on our DH4. So I moved it into here after doing those shunting missions, and you can see we only about have half a tank left, or we have only about half a tank left. So we're going to just do a full repair here. We can go ahead, repair the powertrain, repair the wheels. Those are both pretty cheap, less than 1,000 each. Get the oil in there. Okay, I guess the powertrain's about 1,000. The diesel's going to be expensive, I expect. Yeah, a few thousand there. But that's the price we pay for progress, as I think I've made clear in previous episodes, probably saying that exact phrase verbatim. Anyway, so DH4 is all ready to go now. Let's go ahead and pick up those orders. I'm going to obviously cut out the actual building of the consist. I want to take a quick look. C and B we're going to. That will be at the sawmill. They're both pretty well next to each other, so not worried about it. We were actually at the sawmill last episode, so we're doing a nice back and forth between sawmill and goods factory. One thing I would like to do before we leave goods factory is go shopping one more time. But before we do that, let's just get a feel for where these are. Okay, they're both in D lot, which is on this side, which is good. And we're looking at D3 and D7. So D3 is this one right here. That would be this green car, presumably has scrap in it. And then D7 is the last track over here, also with the same type car, since we're going to the same place and carrying the same cargo. We are going to pick up that DE2, this one right here. In fact, why don't I get this started so that our air compressor is running. I got a nice tip in the comments again that I can... Let's actually turn on. That's weird that was off. Let's turn on that handbrake. Keep this in neutral and then just kind of crank the throttle. I'll leave it at about half, and we'll just leave that running, and that should fill up the main reservoir just a little bit quicker than if it was regularly idling. And I do plan on getting out of here pretty quick here. But before we do that, as mentioned, let's hit up our store, which is on this side, actually. So because I anticipate, so here's the deal. In between episodes, I did the logistics missions and I did a little bit of math. I'm anticipating needing about 200K to fully restore the vehicle, the DH4. And so that's including the prices of some gadgets. Since we're at the goods factory, and this is where you find most of the gadgets, I am going to shell out a little bit more cash now so that we don't have to fast travel back here ideally. So part of that's going to be I'm going to wait on the clock because it's non-essential. As much as I really want the clock, we'll wait for now. Let's get a couple of medium mounting brackets, even though you can buy those basically everywhere. Let's get no analog controller yet. I think everything here is fine. I don't think we'll get a bunch more soldering. We'll get 4 more soldering reels rather. What else do we have? I'm surprised that Goods Factory doesn't have more of the things I'm looking for. We won't get the drill. We will get the drill. We'll get the drill. I have a hammer already. I'm not going to get the toolbox yet. We'll get 2 large plates and we'll wait on the mounting upright bracket. No alternating controller yet. We do want a brake cylinder. We have the soldering gun. We're going to get 2 things of sand and some small mounting strips. We'll get 4 of those. So this is going to be pretty expensive. I'm surprised. I guess I think the machine factory would have more of the useful gadgets like the switch stuff. But there we go. 17K down the drain. That hurts. That's well more than we made on our 2 shunting missions that I did off screen in between episodes. Let's check in on our DE2. Probably has reservoir pressure now. I'm going to go ahead and take off the throttle. Yeah, we got plenty of reservoir pressure, so let's turn off our handbrake and have this just pull forward a little bit. We don't need to go very far with this, actually. Oh, actually, you know what? We do kind of need to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this out and then back it all the way to the DH4. Well, not quite all the way to it, but mostly to it. And then I'm going to slip this, I guess, probably on the front of the... No, because I want to drive from the DH4. So I'm going to put this in between the DH4 and our train parts. I'm struggling to find the word there, but we got there. All right, got the DE2 pulled up over there. We're just gonna pull this guy past it and then hook up to the back, pull everything forward, and then reverse 1 more time so that we don't forget our train parts over there. I was doing a little bit of thinking about how I would like to navigate ourselves over to the sawmill, and I think I have a plan in place, though it does require rotating our train around just a little bit more. 1 more time. Give it a little bit more gas here. Need to get past the signal. There it is. Or the switch. I reliably call those things the wrong term. Trust me, I do feel bad about it. Try to work outside a little bit more too. Our remote is actually almost dead from working all night on those logistics or those shunting contracts. So if you don't know, this thing charges solar with solar energy. This is a solar panel in the middle here. The only reason it's not charging now is that we're actually in the shade. This thing needs direct sunlight in order to charge. Stopped a little bit short there. All right, easy. That's our second loco all hooked up. Well, I say all hooked up. Struggling a bit here with the final step there. All right. And this thing should have the brake cutout already cut out. Yep, that's right. So we should be all set. Now I need to go to D-Lot, but here's the thing. I want to come out of Goods Factory actually on the top northernmost track, which is this one right here, which means the train is actually facing the wrong way right now. Actually, no, it's not. The train's actually facing the right way right now, which is great. So we'll pull forward here. What we're going to do is, if I go back to Goods Factory, we're right here right now in the service bay. We're going to just pull forward and then back into D, hook everything up and head out of here. And I'll see you guys again once I also don't forget the train parts and have all that ready to go. All right, so the whole train is hooked up now. You can see it back there, quite a long one. That's why we needed to pick up that DE2. It's also quite heavy. In fact, it's heavier than what these two locomotives combined are actually able to pull in the rain and uphill. So we're going to go over to the station building as we are slowly accelerating, and we're going to go check in on the weather primarily. We need to activate our contracts, but more importantly, we want to see the forecast. All right, so what time is it actually now? 10 a.m. still, or almost 10 a.m., and there's no rain in the forecast. We might get a little bit of drizzling by 6 o'clock, but I think I'm willing to take that risk. By that late, we should either be at the sawmill or we should be awfully close and be done with the uphill, I think. I know that the sawmill is kind of on top of a hill, so that is something to think about. But we do have the second locomotive. I think we'll be okay. And I'm walking in circles here. Let's go ahead and activate these two contracts now. I do not remember which one is actually on the front or the back, but we'll figure that out when we get closer. I do want to stop one more time at the shop here and see if they have any flags. Doesn't look like it. So flags are these little flags, I guess, that you can stick onto the train cars to sort of help indicate where one order ends and another one starts. That's really useful when you're doing what I'm doing, which is taking two orders going to the same place that are hauling the same thing. It can be really tough to, at a glance, distinguish where one starts and another one ends. While our train is accelerating, why don't we go in here and do a little bit of organization? Stock our shelves, as they say. We just want to make sure that this place isn't a disaster. Otherwise, we might end up losing some items. Hammer can stay on the table. And we're going to use all of these brackets and all of these tools and all of this sand as soon as our DH4 is ready to be restored, which will be after this job. I'm optimistic about it. Almost done here. Let's see, how fast is our loco going? 12, not bad. Oh, I keep meaning to click on these reels and hitting something else. All right, and this is our brake cylinder indicator, which if I have, I might as well mount. So let's grab everything we need for that, which is just some tape and our soldering iron. Here's our train. Pop in there. Looks like all of our switches are set up right, so let's go ahead and put our brake cylinder indicator on. We're going to put it on, let's see, I usually am sitting like here. So why don't we put it on this side? It can go in on a slight angle, that's fine. You want to make sure that the indicator light's at the top. There we go. And we just need to solder that in now. Nice. Test it real quick. Yep, there it is. It works. Let's go ahead and throw our used empty reel out the window, as we're good citizens that would never dare litter. We didn't do that. I don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing there. I don't see anything. And we're underway now, formally, to the sawmill. So I'm going to put a little bit of a cut in here and catch you guys again when we're a little bit closer to the sawmill. Or if something catastrophic occurs. Quick little status update here. we're passing through Oil Well Central. Almost forgot what it was called there. And we've been flying through these stations. This is a very heavy train, as I mentioned earlier. So I'm really trying my hardest to not slow down if I don't need to slow down. And we've done a really good job thus far of staying between 40 and 60 kilometers per hour. So I'm just trying to keep that trend going. I reconfigured some of my pass-throughs for these stations so that instead of taking loading tracks, I'm just taking central tracks, which are also usually empty, or rather always empty. So that saved us a little bit of time. We're passing through Oil Well Central now, and so we're well over halfway on our way to Sawmill. One decision I had to make was if I wanted to take the southern track route and then come in facing north, or take the northern track route and come in facing south. I decided to do the latter and to come in facing the south so that we have a nice easy way to just pull straight out and go over to City South, which will be our next destination after the Sawmill. Got a nice river here you can take a look at as well. The bridge in the distance, it's all very nice. In fact, 60 mile per hour, maybe we give it a bit more throttle. It's a kilometer. What the hell's a kilometer anyway? All right, I actually have to slow way down now very quickly. I have this 30 that I didn't know was here. So I'm cranking the brakes. There we go. Little stressful, but we made it. That was a combination of dynamic and hydraulic brakes. But we made it with no problem. Nice and smooth. Maybe kill the throttle again. Let's see where the back of the train is. Still going through. Ooh, yeah, you can hear those wheels squeaking. All right, and we're coming into a 50 now. Let's get that window closed. There's the sign for the 50. Seems we're decelerating, so I'll give it another little bit of throttle. Let's make sure my brakes are fully off, and they are. All right, well, that's the closest I've come to completely obliterating a train, and I think I handled it pretty well. Definitely need to memorize the track layout a little bit better, but hey, at least we didn't derail. All right, we're approaching Sawmill. We're going up that last hill, and we are losing a little bit of power now. I probably don't need to turn this thing on, the DE2, but I'm going to do it anyway. I got this paired to the remote, so I should be able to control it from back here. It's in forward drive. I can just give it a little bit of throttle, and we should see our acceleration go up now. Or our speed, rather. This locomotive is on one tick below full power. So there's full. We'll go one tick below it. That keeps us from overheating. And we're going to bring the DE2 way up in throttle. Surprisingly, we're still really struggling here. Let's make sure everything's nominal back here. It looks okay. Give it a bit more throttle. And by a bit, I mean like really crank the thing back. It probably was a good idea to turn that on, because with both engines basically at full throttle, we're only eking a kilometer or two per 30 seconds here, I'd say. Good news is that we're virtually at our destination, so this is also a good time to start looking at which cars are going to be unloading first. And to do that, I want to just see if I can cop a look at what we have on the end here. I don't think I'm going to actually have that luxury at the moment. I do want to pay attention since we got two engines on full blast here. Let's do it. Let's do it real quick. Which one is this? Oh, it's so small. I think that's a 98. Yes, and we do have a 98. All right. Let's get back into our cockpit here. So 98's in front, so I'd like to actually move that in front in the order, which means 31 gets dropped off first, which is at C3I. Good, good, good. So let's look at Sawmill. We're going to be coming in from the north here, and we're going to hit C first, which is just perfect. Couldn't have planned that any better. Diesel's looking good. Definitely more than enough to get us over to... Let's kill the throttles now that we're here. More than enough diesel to get us to City South. Okay, so that's C lot. I believe that's B lot. And let's just check. I'm sure the trains closest to the locomotive in the front, yes, those are going to B lot. So we'll just pull forward and then back into B lot to unload those. Uh-oh. I forgot to set the tracks. So we need to come to a stop here actually very rapidly before we impact the beams over there. I realized I was setting train brake on the DE2, which has the cutout on, so that wasn't even doing anything. But we're fine, we survived. We'll switch to reverse, get this going very slowly backwards. In fact, I'll use the DE2 just so we can get going a little bit faster. Averted a minor accident there. That's my bad. So what I did was I forgot to set this switch, or that's set to 3i. I forgot to actually get onto the loading track, which would be this one here. So once the locomotive's clear there, I'm sure you're familiar with this old rigmarole. We'll be good to go. All right, and that's order 1. Decoupled and locked up, I believe. So you can see this is FH31, this is FH98. Same car, different label. So we're having those little flags is useful. We're going to get the train pulling forward so that we can back it into B lot here. And in the meantime, we'll turn in that contract number 1. Nice, 32 minutes, 32,000. $1,000 a minute for that one. All right, that's part 2 of this order finished up now. We can decouple here, try not to lose all of our air in the process. Make sure that handbrake's on. And turn this one in. So the last one was $32 and minutes. This one's 38 and only 29 for the payout, but that's good. We got the 60K that I was hoping we'd get, so that flushes us out at 195,000, which unfortunately might not be everything we need, but it'll certainly get us far enough. So right now I'm thinking if I want to actually take both of these to the City South, and I'm thinking I probably don't. So what I'm going to do, not in here, but in here, is grab our hammer and start whacking. And by that I mean I'm going to take both of these items back into my inventory. I'm going to take this back into my inventory. I don't know where... There it is. That cylinder indicator went. And then I'm going to cut out this next part, but I'm basically just going to pull everything forward and separate the DH4. And I'm going to take the DE2 with us because it's just a little bit lighter weight. It should move a little bit faster and I won't need to pay as much for maintenance on it. We're going to take that one to City South, and I'm also going to just finish up the maintenance on this vehicle so that it's not sitting and blocking our licensees. Since it's a leased vehicle, we'll have to pay the fees on it, and I'd rather do the manual maintenance now than try to track it down later. Or even worse, have to pay out of pocket for it later. So I'm going to cut that out since you've seen me do maintenance, you've seen me shunt vehicles around. No need to see that even more. But I'll catch up with you guys very shortly. All right, so we've done what maintenance we can on the DH4, which is everything except fuel, which is also a shame because the fuel is the most expensive part. But now we're in our little baby train here, if you could even call it a train, and we're going to take this very, very quickly over to City South. If we take a look at the map, it's mostly a straight shot. We have to make a right here, we have to make a right here, we have to make a right there. It actually looks a bit longer on the route map than I think it does on the world map. That's a good distance. All right, welcome back. We're getting pretty close to City South. The sun is also currently setting. Beautiful part of the map over here with the bridge in the distance. And I wanted to take this time to discuss a little bit of what we're going to do once we get to the museum and what our order of operations for restoration will be. So first things first, we're going to drop off the train parts that are needed to repair the vehicle. Installing those is going to cost us about $10,000, and once that's done, we'll store our utility flat car back in its little hidey hole. So once the DH4 has the train parts installed, that's $10K. We're going to need to take it to a run-of-the-mill maintenance depot lot spot, and there's one of those in the museum as well, in the museum roundhouse. Once in there, we're going to need to conduct all the standard repairs you would do for a regular locomotive, except everything will be starting from zero. So that's going to be very expensive. That's going to be by far the most expensive part of this project. I'm anticipating that costing about $130,000 from my other playthrough, plus or minus $5,000 to $8,000 on top of it. But once we finish that, so we have these parts on the back of our train installed, we have the standard maintenance completed, we have it fueled up, it should be able to run. It will still be covered in rust and have broken windows, but it won't need to be towed anymore at that point. At least I believe that's the case. And once we finish that, so that's $130 for the repairs, another $10 for the train parts installation, so we're looking at about let's say $150 to get it running. We're going to want to then paint the thing. So in order to paint it, we're going to need to sandblast it. We're going to use 2 cans of sand for that, one for the exterior and one for the interior. The sand's only about $200, so That's kind of negligible when you have a 194,000 in the bank, but worth keeping in mind. And then the actual painting process is going to be way, way more money. There's two varieties of paint. I've sort of hinted at this and touched on it as we were going through the shops, but you can get the standard Derail Valley liveries, which is the paint you see for the locomotives that are available for lease or renting that are sort of littered around the map. In the case of this DE2, it's this nice yellow paint. Then you also have cans of paint that are for demonstrator paint. Those are the ones that are unique to the demonstrator vehicles or the museum pieces. And in the case of the DH4, I think for the DE2 it's a red maybe, and for the DH4 it uses, oh, gotta slow down here. For the DH4 it uses this awesome blue color with a white stripe, so that's definitely going to be the paint we want. The good news is that for the interior we can use the stock paint. So stock paint's 15K, demonstrator paint's 30K. In total we're going to be looking at spending about 45K on the paint. So if you're keeping track, that's about $200,000 on parts, repairs, and paint. Now we have $194,000, so we might be able to do all that. I think it's more likely that we're going to skip on the painting. We'll definitely do some sandblasting, but we might not be able to get all the painting done that we want to get done. And we're definitely not going to be able to afford any gadgets, I don't think, this time around. But speaking of the gadgets, I'm going to want primarily a switch setter, which is a little control panel you mount on the train. It tells you when switches are upcoming with an audible beep. It also indicates with a light which direction those switches are facing, and you can click a button and it will switch that remotely for you. The other thing I'm going to want pretty early on is both the anti-wheel slip computer and the overheat protector. Both of those work by the player or yourself inputting limits to both temp and what did I say? Wheels. Oh, I guess wheel slip's automatic. But for the all right, let me rewind. In the case of the anti-wheel slip computer, if it detects wheel slippage, you could set it to just cut the throttle, and so you don't need to be sort of min-maxing your throttle setting. You can just set it pretty high and then it will cut it back automatically for you. And then in the case of the overheat protector, you input the actual temperature you want to limit it at, and it will similarly cut throttle. And I think there's another setting you can, I believe it's cut throttle or completely kill throttle, in which case it powers down the engine entirely. And you'll see all this when we get to configuring these gadgets. Finally, I'm going to want a fault detector, which is a super useful little box that you mount on the train. And that thing just blinks and makes a lot of noise and gets pretty rowdy whenever there's a fault detected in the train. And most commonly, that will be a derail situation. And you'd be surprised if you're working with like a 600-meter train and the last two cars derail, it can be really hard to tell that happened without some sort of automatic indicator. You know, that manifests itself as increased drag on the train. And if you're already going uphill, or if you have a bunch of D6s and slugs, you might not even notice the increase in drag, but you will be damaging the car. So you do want to have a detector for that. Those are the four things I want right away. So that would be the switch setter, the fault detector, the anti-wheel slip computer, and the overheat protector. And then once we get a bit more money and we're dealing with much longer trains, we'll also want to get a vehicle length computer where you input the length of your train and then it just keeps track of where the back of the train is. That's very useful when you're dealing with those 600-meter long vehicles. All those gadgets probably going to run us another 50 to 75K. Those things aren't cheap. So we're definitely going to need to do some jobs in the meantime. But I also have a little bit of a plan for that. I think once we get our museum piece DH4 up and running, which is over there, we're going to take it to the harbor with us. And then at the harbor, we should have lots and lots of jobs available. And ideally, we'll have some long haul jobs that will take us to the machine factory. And that'll be good for a couple of reasons. One is the machine factory is far away from the harbor, so we should get pretty good payouts doing those jobs. And then more importantly, the machine factory has all those gadgets that I was just talking about in the shop there. So we'll be able to sort of kill two birds with one stone. We'll be able to get the funds we need to buy all those gadgets, and we'll then also be able to buy the gadgets themselves once we're at the machine factory. But while I was explaining that, we made it here to the City South Museum. So we're gonna pump our brakes a bit and get into the museum roundhouse now. Isn't driving the DE2 like a blast from the past? So many fond memories with this thing. And in fact, I really like the cabin. I like the wide open windows. It makes it much easier, much better visibility out of this thing, both forward and back. You don't have that frustrating divot in the floor that I always fall into on the DH4. But that's where the benefits of the DE2 end. It's really just a visibility thing. The DH4 just happens to be better in basically every single way otherwise. All right, so as we pull in with the parts, we should get an actual pop-up on the top left of our screen when it's close enough. Oh dear, I should also set the turntable to be facing the right way. All right, whew. That's 2 crises averted this episode. No big deal. All right, once this thing is fully stopped, I believe we'll get that pop-up. And maybe we need a handbrake. There it is. All right, so parts are unloaded. We're going to go to the computer to install them. First 10K going to be spent. There we go. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Now, this is kind of annoying. I need to move this thing out of the way, which requires rotating the roundhouse. I'm going to put this thing just right back into that cubby right there, which I believe is the one we took it out of. We have this bay right here that's going to be used for painting, and then we have this bay right here that's going to be used to do our repairs. And in fact, we can repair any train we want in that bay. And I might actually do that when we're doing the primary repairs. So let's continue backwards now. Let's also press E to get rid of that pop-up there. I know what I'm doing. You wouldn't believe it, but I do. This guy's going to come in here. We're going to get it detached, get the brake on. That's good enough. Let's get the brake on it and detach. Get our train moving forward a bit. Because we still need to tow this guy. We have the train parts installed, but we don't have it actually running yet. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Let's bring the DE2 over, our little tow truck. Which track do I need to get it on? This one right here. I believe that's the back of it. Let's put it in reverse. There we go. Got it moving back now. Be very careful here. This thing likes to accelerate fast when it has no weight on it. Okay. Whew. Just like I intended. Let's get this hooked up. I'm not going to bother hooking up the brake lines. I don't think I need them. I don't even know if the brakes work on that thing. Well, I guess they do because the handbrake's on, I think. Yeah. There we go. We're going to back this into the repair bay where we're going to fix up both the DE2 and the museum piece. Just for the sake of repairing early and often. Okay, let's hit the right buttons, please. Oh, this way. A lot of keyboard shortcuts to memorize in this game. Been playing it for so long, you'd think I'd have it down, but alas. I'm recording for about an hour and a half here. I wonder what that'll turn into after I cut things out. All right, there we go. Back into reverse. Now, we don't want to go too far in here just because I don't need to. But I need to get close enough for the hose to connect as well. Oh, and lights. I forgot to mention the lights. We're going to put a bunch of lights on this thing too. And we got, it's December 23rd now. Christmas is fast approaching. We might do some Christmas themed lighting as well if I don't lose the festive spirit before then. And spoiler alert, this might be the last episode I record before Christmas, in fact. All right, so now this is where we spend the big bucks. It was 10K to install the train parts. It's now going to be just a ton. You can see we need to restore powertrain from nothing. That's going to cost us, what, 40K? 37. Wheels from nothing. That's going to cost us Jeopardy music, 33K. All that body damage needs to be fixed. Oh, man, 50K. All right. Oil should be pretty cheap. I mean, compared to the other two. 3,000. Fill her up with sand. 1,000. What's our total right now? 125. I don't think I'm going to go all the way with the diesel. I think I'm just going to go 5K, half a tank worth of diesel. There we go. Yep, we got it painted still, so it's still all rusty here. Let's see, actually, before we go into the paint, if we could do our DE2 as well, just to top it off with everything. Nice. That should be pennies in comparison. All right, now let's get moving. This thing should run now, I think. I'm not going to turn it on quite yet. I also just noticed it's facing backwards, which is kind of funny. We're going to load it into our painting bay. I also need to go grab the sand. All right, get that to stop. Do I have sand? Oh, I do have the shed over here. Okay. Yes, and I did buy sand, so move it one track over. That is the correct bay, and let's back it in. If you're wondering, you see the flickering. When you stand on this big turntable, the remote control gets kind of funky, and your controls get a little weird too. So if you're wondering why that's happening, it's too bad this is facing backwards. It's pretty amusing, though. All right, I think let's come to a stop now. And I think I could detach this because it should be able to function on its own now. So let's get the DE2 out of here. Mostly out of here, at least. We're going to pull it up and out of the way, just so we can see our DH4 in full glory. We need to run over to our shed and grab our sand. We need both cans of sand. I did not invest in any paint. That's fine. We're going to leave the duct tape behind. I do have my drill, which is good. And we're going to get a couple more of those soldering reels. If you know what I mean, you might know what's coming up next here. Turn off the DE2. All right, so in order to do painting, we need to grab our, what do you call it, paint sprayer. We're going to put a can of sand into there, and we're going to spray. Oh, it's finally happening. All right, so that removed all of our rust. We're going to get another can loaded up, and we're going to go inside now and do the same thing. There we go. And the bare metal's actually kind of nice in here. I might keep that. It'll be certainly a lot cheaper. And where did my... There it is. Let's drop that can off right there. Those things will despawn. We don't need to worry about them too much. I'm getting interesting crackles from my headphones, so I hope my recording is still safe. But yeah, check that out. Looking good. Looking good. I'm going to drop a save in right now, actually. You save. And let's go over... I don't think we have a store at City West. or City South. I'll never get that right. But what we can do right away is start mounting some things. So let's get our power on in here. And we'll mount the parts we have. Put the cab light on. And we have a digital speedometer. We're going to put that basically in the exact same spot we had it. In fact, if you recall, I said I wanted to use the small upright bracket, and I think I have that. Whoa, jumped too far. I don't have it, of course. Okay, so we are going to use a little bit of duct tape. And I actually want my other upright bracket. And what I'll do is leave behind the small one, because I'm going to mount that cylinder indicator a little bit differently in here. So let's hop in. We're not going to drill these because I'm going to replace these brackets with smaller brackets. But what we can do at least is tape them in for our maiden journey. Trying to get the alignment just right, even though it's temporary. And duct tape that. Let's get another one down. We're going to put it just right up top here. There we go. And let's duct tape that. Get the speedo on there, and we'll get the brake cylinder on this one. Just gotta make sure I line it up the right way. There we go. Now we need to solder these. And I am going to solder them now, even though they're only duct taped. Just so we can use them for that maiden journey. And it's working, and we're going to we're going to solder our speedo. I will have to do these again once I permanently drill them in, but whatevs. Let's throw out our garbage. All right, there we have it, folks. Before I go, let's take a quick look. Oh, it's foggy. Let's take a quick look at our station building and see if we have anything that wants to go to the harbor. Ooh, and we do. We have a couple things that want to go to the harbor, so we'll take those with us. And they're pretty light. So I'm not going to do that now because I've been recording for almost 2 hours now. But what I will do is when it's time to start the next episode, I'll take my paint sprayer with me over to the harbor along with those orders, and we'll visit the harbor to buy some paint for this bad boy. But until then, please have a nice rest of your day. Let me know what you think of this episode. Let me know if you're excited for the next episode where we finish our restoration of the DH4. And I'll catch you guys next time. Have a good day.